All right, this is where we start, okay? With these videos, on some of them you will see me, on others it'll just be narration. It's a little weird to see yourself lecturing as you're recording it, so sometimes the narration is just easier for me. But you have the ability to stop and start when you like, and I do them in bite-sized chunks like the rest of the lectures, like the rest of the components of the lecture. So let's dive into the nature of fashion. Before we really dig deep into the nature of fashion, I just want to start with a little bit of history, a little bit of perspective on, some of the social and cultural conditions of fashion. And think of it this way, right? We turn on our TVs, or we, log into our favorite website, blog site, gossip site, social media site, and we're constantly being told and shown what people are wearing, right? So on the red carpet, at any major event, the questions that are asked are by actresses: who designed your gown? And, for the actors, what are you wearing, right? And in a matter of days, those images are scrutinized, and folks end up on the best or worst dress list, right? And there's a whole industry of, of companies that will tell you immediately, or make expensive replicas of the dress and the shoes and the handbag, and how to duplicate, the look, the cosmetics, the look that the actor or actress wore. The crazy thing is this isn't new, right? This scrutiny isn't new. And how did fashion get to this place, right? It's true that, consumers today and fashion fans, we can see the latest styles from music videos and award shows and runway and influencers, right? Immediately, right? But even 50, 100 years ago, American women, right? Actually, all women, we're talking about most in the American context. American women went wild for anything that was worn by an actress, right? So here we have, Audrey Hepburn in the background of this video, with the future Princess of Monaco, right? And it is something that it hasn't changed, right? So the point is that fashion has always been changing and evolving, and it always will. And history tells us where fashion has been, but it also tells us where fashion is going. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next couple of slides, and then we'll dive deep into the rest of the chapter. Coco Chanel once said that fashion is not something that exists in dresses only. That fashion is in the sky, it's in the street. Fashion has to do with ideas, the way we live, and what's happening. It's an everyday part of life, and included in that everyday part of life are, the economic conditions and political events and health issues and cultural happenings, right? All those things affect what people wear. So in addition to us having influencers, right? On the last slide, we looked at some influencers that we've had before we use those words. Those social and cultural conditions, right? Fashion trends and developments in fashion. So new textiles, or styling, right? And then designers. And designers are interesting now, because designers, at one point, there were people whose sole job was to design garments, and now celebrities, right, have become designers, and designers have become celebrities. Our entrance into the 21st century has brought along some new technologies, brought along some new challenges as well, with the explosion of social media sites and online shopping. Those things have completely changed the focus the focus of retail and fashion. Um, and the 2000s really, even though we hear about the 80s as the age of ostentatiousness, right? But the 2000s really became the decade of celebrities and socialites and reality TV stars as cultural, social and cultural icons, and really are current day influencers, right? So that celebrity culture, like I said, has given us more, in my air quotes, designers, right? So um, designers that some have a good design aesthetic, and some don't. Some just slap their name on a garment and sell it at Kmart. Not that anything's wrong with Kmart, right? But how much designing are they actually doing, right? They're paying somebody else. They're just picking and putting their name on it, right? So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna look to the future, right? We look to the future, but because it is fashion, we always do have to look back to the past. So we have to, one of the things we're going to consider is how, where and how fashion is going to evolve, and what our role is going to be in that evolution as we venture on a career in the fashion industry. One way or another, we know somebody whose income comes from the fashion industry. It could be either me, right? So I'm teaching fashion. It could be a designer. It could be a pattern maker. It could be a salesperson. It could be the delivery person, right? And the fashion industry is great because it is a job creator. And the fashion industry employs hundreds of thousands, millions really, of both unskilled and skilled professionals, both in the United States and abroad. In addition, the fashion industry it's an economic driver, and as we've seen with what's happened with the pandemic, if you take retail jobs away, what happens? What happens to our economy? The fashion industry is really considered, in some instances, it's considered glamorous. It's also the most underrated of all of the major economic drivers that we have in our country, right? So while most of us as individuals that that make purchases, right, of apparel and garments. So by shopping industry, in my air quotes, industry retailers, or buying from vintage shops, oftentimes the seriousness of fashion is taken away, and it often makes professionals look like hobbyists, or shallow women, right? So think about in Devil Wears Prada, when Miranda Priestley's character is explaining to Anne Hathaway's character, about the shade, why the sweater she has on, why does she have that sweater on, right? So, fashion is often underrated and not taken as serious. Again, you can't see my air quotes, as serious, even though it's an essential part of our social, cultural, political, and economic systems. And if we think about um, how we judge, right? How we judge people by what they wear. It it also contributes to that misconception about fashion. So we may think that someone is shallow just because they have on designer labels, or we may think somebody is athletic, right? Because they always have on athletic gear. So there are some misconceptions about fashion, and part of what we're going to do in this class is we're going to be able to explain the importance of all the different roles that are in this industry, and help you decide which role you want to take.